Here's what smart executives do when their company stock pops. Liquidity events create opportunity and irreversible mistakes. Few moments in a career feel better than this one. Your company stock finally pops. Maybe it's an IPO, a secondary sale, or years of equity compensation finally becoming liquid. Overnight, the numbers change. Net worth jumps. Options become real. And that's exactly why this moment is so dangerous. Liquidity events don't just create wealth, they lock in decisions. Taxes, timing, concentration risk, and behavioral mistakes made in the months around a stock surge often matter more than anything you do afterward. Once you sell or fail to sell, there's no rewind button. Today we're going to talk through what smart executives actually do when company stock pops, how they avoid behavioral traps, how they think about timing exits investing, how they smooth taxes across years, and why planning before selling is far more valuable than reacting after the fact. Before we dive in, my name's Ryan Knoll, and I'm a certified financial planner and founder of Nav Wealth Partners, a financial planning firm where my team and I help clients nationwide make smart money decisions. Let's get started. Here's why liquidity events are uniquely dangerous. Most financial mistakes happen slowly. Liquidity events mistakes happen fast, and they're usually irreversible. That's because four forces tend to collide at once. There's emotion, taxes, concentration risk, and timing pressure. Executives often go from illiquid to liquid before their planning catches up. And once decisions are made, selling, holding, exercising, or reinvesting, the tax and risk consequences are locked in. The biggest mistake isn't doing the wrong thing. It's doing something without a plan. And oftentimes you have a fixed window of time in which you have to make these decisions before you are unable to trade company stock again. Throw in all these variables and it's very easy to make mistakes. First, let's talk about behavioral mistakes after a stock surge. The first risk isn't tax, it's actually psychology. When company stock surges, executives fall into predictable behavioral traps. First, there's recency bias. You've watched the stock go up. It feels like momentum. Selling now feels like leaving money on the table, even if the stock already dominates your net worth. Next is loyalty bias. Selling feels disloyal. Executives often confuse belief in the company with sound portfolio management. Third is overconfidence. Success inside the business bleeds into confidence about the stock itself, even though concentration risk is rising rapidly. And finally, there's anchoring. You anchor to the recent high. Any pullback feels like a reason to wait until it recovers. These biases push executives to delay diversification, often until volatility or bad news forces decisions under even worse conditions. Smart executives recognize that belief in the company and risk management are two completely different conversations. Then there's the concentration risk reality check. After a stock pop, many executives discover an uncomfortable truth. A single stock now represents 40, 60, or even 80% of their net worth. That's not diversification, that's a bet. Concentration risk matters more after success than before it. A downturn doesn't just hurt returns, it can reshape lifestyle, retirement timing, and financial security. The smartest executives don't ask, will this stock keep going up? They ask, what happens to my life if it doesn't? That framing changes everything. We've successfully helped many executives answer that question, unwind stock that represent almost all of their portfolio, and do so in a way that minimizes taxes on their unrealized gains. And it's important to realize concentration issues don't have to be solved overnight. They are often unwound over years of multiple vesting periods in a way that builds out a portfolio that protects you on the downside and keeps taxes low. Next, let's talk about timing decisions around exits, bonuses, and vesting. Liquidity events rarely happen cleanly. More often, executives face a messy overlap of vesting schedules, lockup periods, performance bonuses, RSUs, ISOs, and non-qualified stock options, deferred compensation, and blackout windows. This creates timing risk. Selling too much in 1 year can push income into the highest tax brackets. Waiting too long can expose you to unnecessary market risk. Investing events can silently sack income without cash planning to support the tax bill. Smart executives map this out. What vests this year versus next, what income is controllable versus forced, and which decisions are reversible and which are not. They don't think in calendar years alone. They think in multi-year windows. There are a few big issues I see with timing issues, But there's one big one I want to call out right now, and this deals with executives who deal with multiple types of awards. They receive RSUs that vest quarterly, incentive stock options that invest on the same schedule but must be exercised and then sold at various times throughout the course of the next 2 or 3 years, and non-qualified stock options that further complicate tax issues currently. Now, executives in this boat run into one huge issue. 2 of those awards, RSUs and non-qualified stock options, typically create ordinary income tax. ISOs, on the other hand, create another issue when it comes to the alternative minimum tax, which is an alternate tax schedule that recaptures certain types of income, such as the bargain element on ISOs at exercise. The bargain element is the difference between the fair market value and the exercise price. And this is typically a non-tax item, assuming you don't trigger AMT. But when you do trigger AMT, you will be taxed at a higher rate than you should have because of carelessness. We work with many individuals who face alternative minimum tax implications. If they're not careful, and this alternative tax could cost you thousands of dollars more in tax annually. This is one area a good planner covers their fee very quickly. And before we start talking about some selling strategies for your stock comp, I wanted to thank you all for taking time today to watch our video. Many of our clients have some sort of stock-based compensation and come to us with help and needing help for unwinding that. If that is how you receive a portion of your compensation and have questions about your next steps, please feel free to schedule time to meet with someone on the team. We can help provide a bit of certainty to your situation. And if you're not quite ready for that step yet, throw this video a like and subscribe. We drop content like this every week to help everyone on their financial journey. Let's jump back into the video. Next, let's talk about why sell everything is rarely the right answer. Some executives respond to a stock pop by wanting to sell everything immediately. That's understandable, but it's often suboptimal. Selling everything all at once can trigger massive tax bills, push income into top marginal brackets, increase Medicare, IRMA exposure later depending on your age, and eliminate future tax planning flexibility. The goal isn't to eliminate company stock exposure instantly. The goal is to reduce concentration intentionally over time. That means pacing sales in a way that balances tax efficiency, risk reduction, liquidity needs, and emotional comfort. But one of the biggest opportunities after a stock surge is tax smoothing across multiple years, spreading income and gains across years instead of compressing them all into one. Smart executives will look at the current marginal tax bracket, future expected income, vesting and bonus schedules, capital gains versus ordinary income, state tax exposure, and Medicare look-back effects. They may choose to sell a portion now and more later, pair sales with years of lower income, offset gains with charitable strategies, use loss harvesting strategically, and coordinate sales with retirement timing. The difference between reactive selling and planned selling can be millions in lifetimes taxes. Then there's the RSU. RSUs add another layer of complexity. They're taxed as ordinary income when they vest, whether you sell them or not. Some common mistakes include holding RSUs after vesting without realizing you're reinvesting in company stock, failing to plan for withholding shortfalls, and not understanding how these equity grants are taxed. Smart executives treat equity compensation like cash compensation, not a special asset class. Once it vests, the question isn't, do I believe in this company? It's, would I buy this stock with this cash today? Now, I'm not saying you always sell your RSUs at vest. In fact, there are many individuals who have benefited from holding and then seeing the stock soar. But at the same time, you want to make sure you know how you will plan to exit the position. How will you keep your taxes low? How much concentration is too much? What are your strategies to hedge against a downturn? These are all questions you need to be asking if you plan to hold your RSUs past the vesting date. And to that point, this is why planning before selling matters more than afterwards. Once the sale happens, most of the damage or opportunity is already locked in. You can't undo a massive one-year tax spike, poor timing relative to vesting, concentration risk carried too long, and missed diversification windows. That's why the smartest planning happens before the first sale, not after the money hits your account. Pre-sale planning answers questions like, how much can I sell this year without triggering unnecessary taxes? Which shares should be sold first? How do upcoming vesting events affect the plan? And how do I reduce risk while staying aligned with company policies? Post-sale planning is about damage control. Pre-sale planning is about value creation. Let's go over a real-world example. Consider an executive whose company stock jumps from $40 to $110 a share. Their holdings now represent $6 million, which is over half of their net worth. And this is the type of client we deal with every day. And this executive has another $2 million in unvested RSUs vesting quarterly over the next 2 years. So their overall exposure to company stock is $8 million, or nearly 60% of their portfolio, just with their RSUs. Now, they also have 9,000 shares of ISOs that they need to exercise. And those ISOs are going to expire in 2 years. Their exercise price is $55 a share, which means they have a bargain element of roughly $500,000 when those are exercised. This is important because if they don't exercise enough ISO shares now, they may forfeit the value of some when they expire because they won't be able to exercise them all in time. But if they do exercise too much now, all of their income might be on the AMT schedule, which will cost them tens of thousands of dollars in taxes over the next 2 or 3 years. Furthermore, this executive is 64 and getting ready to retire, but is unsure how all of this will impact their Medicare and IRMAA situation. Without planning, they hold too long and become concentrated and have a growing tax overhead. Then a pullback cuts value dramatically. Vesting events stack income into 1 year, taxes spike, and diversification happens under pressure. With planning, sales are staged over the next 3 to 5 years. Income stays within targeted tax brackets, concentration risk declines steadily, liquidity supports lifestyle and long-term goals, and emotional stress is reduced. Same stock, same success, completely different outcomes. If that scenario sounds familiar, you're exactly the type of client we help. Highly paid executives have a different set of rules they need to play by to maximize the value of their unique compensation package. Getting it wrong is leaving money on the table. Let's switch gears a bit now and talk about the role of charitable and estate strategies with stock-based comped executives. Liquidity events also create powerful planning opportunities. Donating appreciated shares if you miss selling during the open window, funding donor-advised funds to get tax breaks in big income years, shifting assets to trusts for estate planning, and reducing future income tax exposure. But these strategies only work before shares are sold. Once you convert stock to cash, many of the most effective tools disappear. So what is the smart executive mindset here? The executives who handle stock pops best share a few traits. They separate career success from portfolio risk. They plan in multi-year frameworks. They accept that taxes are a design problem, not an afterthought. And they prioritize optionality over perfection. They don't chase the top. They don't panic at volatility. They just execute the plan. The bottom line here is that when company stock pops, opportunity and risk arrive together. This is the moment where behavioral mistakes are amplified, tax decisions become permanent, concentration risk peaks, and planning matters more than opinions. The smartest executives don't ask, "What should I do with this stock?" They ask, "How do I turn this moment into long-term financial security?" If you're facing a liquidity event and want help coordinating taxes, timing, diversification, and long-term planning before decisions become irreversible, that's exactly what my team does here at Nav Wealth Partners. Thank you for watching, and as always, make smart money decisions.